The Eclipse Super Star Destroyer was the flagship of the Reborn Emperor Palpatine, a symbol of terror, meant to represent the new might wielded by the Dark Empire. Many find it surprising then that the Eclipse is actually shorter than the Empire's most famous dreadnought, the Executor Super Star Destroyer. I mean, sure, it is more massive, but it wasn't very common for Palpatine to scale down the appearance of his super weapons. This brings us to a discussion that raged on in the 80s and 90s, the length of Super Star Destroyers. There's a great article by Pablo Hidalgo on this topic, which summarizes the contention and the Executor's change in length. I'll link it down in the description. Before big lore compendiums and essential guides were common, Star Wars lore was a bit more wild. There was no canon story group, and on-screen happenings were the main source of lore, with novelizations and the few books that existed secondary. So it's not like Lucas put out a YouTube video before The Empire Strikes Back giving the ship's specifications, nor was there a book laying out the information in an authoritative way. The main option then, for those like us who love this stuff, was to compare the Executor to its Star Destroyer escorts, as Star Destroyers were understood as being about a mile long. However, ships aren't really easily comparable when on screen due to depth of field and a bunch of other factors, so that helped nothing. The script in the novelization all states simply that the Executor was larger and more awesome than the 5 Star Destroyers surrounding it. Again, this is all summarized in Pablo's article, but the first source which quantified the actual length of the Executor was a guide to the Star Wars universe in 1984. That source gave the length of 5 miles, which was accepted and used for video games, books, and even the first edition of the Essential Guide to Warfare. Read any early post-Endor content and you'll see this 8km/5 mile figure thrown around. It wasn't until later that the 19km long figure that we use today was established, and although some argue otherwise, the earlier figure was never fully retconned as being some early Super Star Destroyer prototype, rather it was just ignored. This brings us to the topic of today's video, and the Dark Empire comic series. Dark Empire, along with Heir to the Empire, kicked off a revitalized Star Wars EU. Book 1 introduces the Eclipse Dreadnought, a 17.5km long monster of a ship. And at this point, I think it's pretty clear where I'm headed. The Eclipse was designed specifically to be larger than the Executor, and not only larger, but twice as large. And I know what some of you might be thinking. Well, wasn't that 17.5km long number also created in later reference books, perhaps as a comparison to the Executor? Well, no, actually. Dark Empire specifically states that the Eclipse measures 10 miles from stem to stern. 10 miles is about 16 kilometers. The Dark Empire sourcebook from '93 actually gives us the more accurate and specific number of 17.5 kilometers. So when the Executor was 8, the Eclipse was 17.5. We can take a look at other West End game sourcebooks from that era. In June of '94, 1 year after the release of the Dark Empire sourcebook, the second edition of the Imperial sourcebook was released. There, the Executor was given a length of 8 kilometers, so it's not like there was any inconsistency or that the West End guys were working off of different numbers when giving a formal length for the Eclipse. No, the Dreadnought was actually 2.2 times larger than the Super Star Destroyer we see in the movies, and I think this actually fits much better with the dread and the horror and the grandiose nature of the Dark Empire. The ships used by Palpatine were supposed to be basically indestructible and advanced beyond anything the New Republic could stop. For example, the World Devastators couldn't even be harmed by conventional means. These were supposed to be secret super weapons constructed deep in the galaxy's core, so they're ridiculous. I'm not saying that the Dark Empire writers specifically went out to make a ship that was twice as large as the Executor, but in canon, that's what they did. However, when the Executor got its big upsize to around 12 kilometers and later to the 19 we know and love today, the Eclipse was never changed and was left at 17.5 kilometers, which again is strangely shorter than the Executor. Should it have been scaled up? well, perhaps not totally. Maintaining the ratio of size difference and proportionally upscaling the Eclipse would give us a 40-kilometer long vessel. That's absolutely massive, and perhaps not appropriate, but I think I would have retconned the Eclipse to be at least over 20 kilometers, but I understand not wanting to mess with such ancient and ultimately unimportant lore. But what do you think? Do you have some insight that I'm missing? Were you around when Dark Empire was released, and did you think the Eclipse was that much larger than the Super Star Destroyer? Did you ever talk with your friends about the length of the Executor? Should the Eclipse be larger? Why, and how much so? Let me know all of that and more down in the comments section. I also want to just reiterate that article by Pablo is really good, and based on some scale models that he found in one of the only 2 scenes where a scaled Star Destroyer is next to a scaled Super Star Destroyer, the Executor should actually be around 12.5 kilometers long, which I think makes sense. Anyway, until next time guys, this has been your host EckhartsLadder. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Until next time, may the Force be with you.